Hello and welcome to another Beyond All Reason video. Today we're going to be going through your very first game of Bar. So if you haven't watched the economy video, we won't be going through any of that here, so make sure you've checked that out first before we go on to this. Alright then, let's get to it. First, we're going to decide where we're going to start. This position in the top corner here is quite good. It's got the cover from the wall, and it's got 3 max points that are fairly close together. So we're playing against a barbarian AI in this situation called Subcom. And first thing we're going to do is we're just going to queue up a couple of eco buildings to start with. We're going to go 2 mechs, 3 wind, and then go to the factory. The reason why I'm just building the winds in between of the mechs points here is that obviously the building mechs requires energy, so if you can kind of get that energy back whilst you've still got it, the better. And then we're going bot factory just because we're going to start on 2 mechs here, so having the bots out will be quite useful. So in this first phase, there's not much to do. You're just kind of waiting for your buildings to be built. Wind here isn't necessarily the best choice because as you can see we've got a minimum of 2, but with wind going 13 at the start here, it's pretty good. We can always change our mind and invest into solar afterwards. So now, once my commander has built the factory, as soon as it starts it, you can then start queuing things up. So I'm going to just queue up 4 scouts, 2 engineers, and then 5 pawns. The plan here is, as soon as the scouts are being built, they are low energy and low metal. To build, we can then build additional energy and the other mechs point, so that we're saving up some resources for the engineers, which will require a bit more eco to build, but we're still at the same time working on our economy. Now what I tend to do is when we've got 2 of the scouts done, I'll send them forward. This is more of a PvP kind of tactic here, but in PvE it's also somewhat useful, at least to know where the enemy is spawned. Unfortunately, I haven't timed this 100% here. Ideally, I would have been finished that mechs and on the factory to assist the engineer being out before the engineer even started, but that's not the case. Whilst this engineer is building, I can actually tell it to start queuing stuff up. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to tell it to start queuing up some winds along the side here. I've also cancelled building any more scouts because after these 4 scouts, any more is useless for the immediate time. And now that my commander is busy doing stuff, I'm going to see if I can get these scouts around and maybe grab mechs or not. Now, when you're against players, they'll be a bit more lax, shall we say, with defenses. You can see here the AI is built 2 LLTs, so there's pretty much no way I'm going to get those guys in, which obviously they don't. And as you can see, my second engineer is now just assisting the factory. I'll have these pawns move up, cover a bit of a defensive line, and I will now start walking my commander forward. Now, using your commander to expand your base is quite useful. He's obviously defensive power on his own is quite strong. At this early game, there's not going to be any units that really can trouble him. At least not a massive units. This map is also quite choke pointy, with there being only the crossing in the middle, so I know that I'm pretty safe to move up here. I'm going to get a radar up, as well as an LLT there to defend my forward position. Now with this 3rd engineer that's coming out, I'm going to use that engineer to expand safely behind my forces that I've got ahead. as I said a minute ago, because this map is very choke pointy, we don't really need to worry about flank attacks, so that engineer can kind of go on his own and not really worry. When building an expansion, as you can see, my commander is here. He's going to build the mechs, and then he's going to build one LLT, and then he's going to move on. Now, you don't necessarily have to do that, which I won't be doing with those rear mechs, but on the forward mechs, having that one laser tower just kind of protects you from being flanked and just getting your mechs killed by scouts, like I was trying to attempt to do earlier on. Now I've just moved my position for my factory to be a bit more forward, so that I'm not having to go back to my base as much. Any engineers that I've got coming out are automatically assisting the factory, because right now I've got an overflow of metal, which is fine. I'm going to build one air defense in the middle, just in case. This is not necessarily important, but I'm going to do it anyway. In base there, you saw me just quickly flash back. I'm building an energy storage. As you can see right now, I'm overflowing energy right now. So by having that energy storage, it's going to give me a bit more room. And I know for a fact that the enemy has started building laser towers. So I have now put one Rocketeer in the queue. Now, Rocketeers are very good at taking out static defenses, mainly the light laser towers, because they outrange light laser towers. So that's the next step in this position. Now, I'm moving forward with these forces, trying to get as much as I can. So I've got a wind, an engineer there, so that's quite a good trade. Now, there's quite a few AKs there, and I don't know what else is behind it, so I'm not going to go and attack that. There's also the laser towers there, so I'm going to try and sneak around here, and I've got an extra 2 mexes, a radar, and a laser tower for the cost of 5 pawns. So that's quite good. That pawn will there die though before he gets that next mex. So at this point, I've had 2 extra mexes for a considerable amount of time more than my opponent. And we're just going to get this radar up in the middle so we can see if there's anything there. Now at this point, I'm still building pawns. I've got 4 engineers in the base, and I've got an overflow of mechs. So now is the time to build some nano towers. Now nano towers are more efficient. They have higher build power than a engineer. And so it is definitely more beneficial to have nano towers assisting your building than engineers. So that's what they're doing now. I've also queued up more energy. And at this point, I am deciding that I want to move forward and push across this middle section and try and stop the enemy getting that high ground. Because once the enemy has a high ground, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get there. I'm just telling an engineer that I've sent forward to move further forward, and we can see a large, probably equal amount of AKs to my pawns. Now AKs have longer range than the pawns, so we need them to really come to us. You see, I can't catch up there with the AKs, and he's almost killed one of my pawns before I'm even able to do anything. I'm going to have my commander move down here to hopefully try and repair my pawns so I don't lose any. The Roccos aren't really going to do much here. Yeah, so I've started getting a couple of Lazarus bots, which are the res bots. The idea behind them is they're going to try and repair my forces. Also, they're just useful for reclaiming. If I'm killing a lot of enemy units here, I can just have them reclaim the enemy units for extra metal, which in turn gives me extra units. Okay, so we've got quite a group there. They're going to move forward. Engineers are still doing their thing, and I've decided now is the time to switch from pawns to maces. Now, pawns are more of a defensive unit. Pawns are more of a raider unit. With their speed, they're good at harassing. They're not really good at holding positions and you know, general slugfest sort of thing. So I realized that now's the time to switch. So I've decided to do that. Now, with my overflow of energy, I can see that I'm producing 500, but I was only using like 120 when that was on the factory. So I'm going to build a couple of energy converters, which will give me a very small amount of mechs for energy use. But if I've got the overflow, I may as well use it. Now you can see these res bots are just reclaiming the wrecks to give me some more metal. I'm kind of just biding my time right now, waiting for a decent quantity of the assault units. And as we can see here, the enemy has some of them as well. And you can see how much damage it takes. I've got a vastly numerical advantage there, and yet it still takes quite a while to kill that. Now with the engineering 2 res bots here, I'm going to use them to repair whilst I move those other units up. You can see those Roccos are a bit of a pain against my pawns. Now obviously the cause ones aren't called Rocketeers, but I'll be honest, I don't remember what the cause ones are called. So I'm going to use my commander here behind a hill. The enemy isn't going to really be able to shoot me very easily, and with the commander's D gun just to take them out very easily without having to worry about you losing any units. So this is why it's very strong to move forward with your commander. Your commander can do quite a lot, and he's obviously tanky enough to survive, and with that D gun that can basically one-shot anything, it frees up you to not lose units for no reason, basically. Now I've probably got a numerical advantage here, especially with all the pawns that I've got, but the pawns won't do too much. Moved my commander very shortly there just to get in range to chuck a D gun off to help protect that LLT. The Rocketeers on Cortex will outrange the LLT, but it's more of just giving them something else to shoot at that's not my units. And I'll get the res bots here to attempt to repair these maces while they fight. The maces are quite tanky, so if you can keep them alive with res bots behind them whilst they're doing their fighting, it works out quite well. Also, useful thing of the commander being that you can repair. As you can see, I've just grouped these units into split groups. The rockets kind of want to be behind the maces. They're quite squishy. The pawns are obviously raiding units, so they're going to move a lot quicker. And then you've got your tankier units there that's going to sit in the front and soak up some damage. Now we see there's an LLT plonking on us there, so we're just going to get the res bots to repair. Now you'll notice that I haven't really paid attention to my base at all. Now, this is kind of a bad thing, because I should probably be paying more attention to my base. But at the moment, I can see from just the mini-map that the engineers I've got building energy are still building energy, and that everything's still queuing up. I'm just going to build a couple more of these energy converters now, because I know that those windmills have been built. And that will give me just only 2 more mechs. But I'm going to build some of the enemy side mechs now to more solidify this position over here. And now you can see that the wave of incoming units of mine coming across the map are significantly more than the enemy. Oh, well, the res bot's just repairing again. The Rocketeers are good against stationary targets. That includes stationary units. So it's important to keep your units moving. These guys are lucky enough that they can hold out quite a long time against all of those rockets. I'm going to build an additional radar there just so I can see a bit more around the corner. Now would be a good time to contemplate going Tech 2. In theory, I could reclaim the Tech 1 factory. I've got a substantial amount of units. But instead, I decide to double down on Tech 1 and just go for that. Now, the enemy's army here is trying to kill the pawns that I've got trapped at the top. But it also means that their army is in a position where it can be flanked quite easily. So with the pawns not really being useful anymore, I just send them straight into the enemy, try and do as much damage as I can, while these maces just come up and try and trap the enemy. And pawns aren't really useful now with all the LLTs up. They can still be useful with LLTs, but you will lose quite a few. So I preferred to go for the mace route here and just have the slow tanky-ish push. So obviously, as you can see here, the enemy did reclaim that position. At the same time, I've got my reinforcements holding off the angle where my commander is. And I'm going to just basically draw a line in front of the enemy's base and just basically stop them pushing out at all. Now, you'll just see there that I've noticed that there is actually so many enemy units from that army that's left alive. So I'm sending a small detachment to go deal with that. Now, if I was smart here, I would have got one of those res bots or the engineer to go around and reclaim all that metal that's at the top. That's quite a lot of metal just left there. But at this point, it's pretty much game over for the enemy AI here. They've lost all but their core base, and yeah, it's just a matter of time before I build that critical mass to push through. And so what I'm going to do with the flow of units that I've got coming in right now, I know that I can basically willingly throw away some in essence. So I'm sending this half of the units that I have here to push into the enemy base and do a bit of damage. The more damage we can do to their eco, the harder it is for them to recover at all. So we've killed a bunch of their units, haven't lost anything yet. Just killed one of their mechs points. You can see the laser tower that I didn't have spotted. Trying to tell my guys to prioritize that so we can minimize some damage. Flamethrower there was quite troubling. Did quite a lot of damage to my rocket units there, so I'm just going to pull back for a little bit. I'm going to repair the units that I've got left, and then I'm going to move in with a different group momentarily. Just going to repair what I've got here. At the same time here, I've got an engineer doing nothing, but that's bad on my point of view here. I should really be using that engineer to claim those previous mechs points and start capitalizing on this area advantage that I've got. But unfortunately, that is not what I did. So just using these units to clear up that last force that's coming out, and now with this other force, I'm gonna come in and do a bit more harassment. That was a double LLT there. Not really suitable for killing those types of units, but still does substantial more damage. And now I'm just going to get some eco shots off. You can see there the enemy has a bunch of energy converters. That's the equivalent of about 5 mechs per second gone there. So that's quite a damaging attack. We're going to kill the last defenses they've got here. As you can see, I've lost quite a lot of those units, but at the same time I've killed probably not the value of the army, but at this point the enemy doesn't have much left. He's running on 1 metal point, killed his energy converters, and I'm just going to park this army round the back of those advanced solars there, and in the meantime I'm just going to solidify that position and get the last few remaining of my units further forward with its reinforcements, and then I'm probably going to go for the last push here. Now I'm telling my Resbot to finally reclaim everything on the field, just to get me getting a bit more units pumping out. But at the rate at the reinforcements that are coming out here, it's not really anything that I need to worry about. Just using this commander to kill this unit so it doesn't end up killing my Resbot, but then the Resbot decided to go towards the enemy base rather than away from the enemy base, so it died anyway. And just using the last of this army here, I know that I've got plenty of reinforcements coming, so that if I need to completely throw away this army, I can do. At the end of the day, all you need to do is kill the enemy commander, which, as you can see just at the bottom of the screen, my units are already chipping him away, and there we go. The enemy commander is dead. So due to the fact that the enemy wasn't able to push me, because of A, the choice of the map, but B, because of positioning of my units, the enemy wasn't able to harass due to defending the expansions with LLTs, and just due to general pushing with the commander, meaning that I'm able to defend the units I have, as well as build fortifications and radars for them, we were able to push to the enemy's side of the map and slowly box them into their base. And once boxed into their base, it's pretty much game over. Now that's pretty much your first game of Bar. This is against the Barbarian AI, not one of the basic AIs, so if you're playing against the basic AI and follow that sort of steps, then you should be good. Now if there's anything else you want to know, feel free to pop a comment below and let me know what you'd like. I also stream on Twitch every Friday, so if you want to ask me something in person, feel free to pop on there. And that's it for this video, so thank you all for coming, and I'll see you next time.